Hello, Chicago.
Hi.
This is Political Forum for Wednesday, September 24th, 2014. We welcome tonight as our special guest, State Senator Mattie Hunter from the 3rd District. Welcome back to Political Forum, Senator.
Thank you very much, Raj. It's a pleasure to be back here.
I'm Rod Joy, a board member here at CAN TV. Political Forum is a live interactive call-in program that's designed to connect you directly with your elected officials. Over the next 25 minutes or so, we hope you'll have an opportunity to learn more about Senator Hunter, her views on some of the challenges and opportunities facing the state. And above all, this program is about fostering a strong sense of civic engagement here in Chicago. Your voice is a big part of the program, so we welcome your comments and your questions for Senator Hunter. Please join the conversation at 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060. Senator Hunter, welcome back.
Thank you. It is certainly a pleasure to return back to Political Forum, Rod. It really, really is.
For our viewers who may be meeting you for the first time this evening, introduce folks to the 3rd District. What can you tell us about your district?
Well, I've served in the Illinois State Senate for the past 12 years, and I have a very diverse district. Some of my colleagues might challenge that by saying that they have the most diverse district, but I believe I do. So my district on the northern end goes all the way to Chicago Avenue, and I have near north in my district, near south in my district, parts of Chinatown, parts of White Sox, though I have the White Sox Park in my district. I have parts of Inglewood, South Shore, Marquette Park, Grand Boulevard. I live in Washington Park, so that's in my district. And so my entire district makes up parts and pieces of 16 wards. So therefore, I work with 16 aldermen in the city of Chicago.
And how did you get involved in public service?
Wow. I grew up in Robert Taylor Homes, and I lived there. I was there for 18 years, and I started out as a community activist when I was 13 years old and got involved with politics when I was 15 years old. And I love it. I enjoy working with people and helping people, and that's really basically how I got out. I got involved by advocating for their needs.
And speaking of working with people and helping people, I know one constituency group that you've really gone to bat for are teenagers and summer jobs and violence prevention.
Absolutely.
And you've achieved some significant wins of late. Tell our viewers a little bit about your efforts to reduce violence.
Sure. As you know, Chicago is hurting right now. We're seeing devastating violence, and I've been listening to the community, working with the aldermen and our congressmen, as well as the governor's office. And so the last 2 years, we've been very successful in finding well over $10 million for summer youth employment. And we held hearings. It appeared as though we were not going to be successful in obtaining funds this past summer for youth employment to repeat the program. However, to ensure that we have the dollars available, I, as well as a few other people from the governor's office, held hearings all over the state over a 2-month period. And we invited adults, we invited business people and persons who had participated in the previous youth employment programs, and they came out to testify that this is a greatly needed program. And so as a result, we were very successful in obtaining the same amount of dollars. We were able to hire through the state of Illinois 20,000 young people between the ages of 16 to 24. And these kids were placed in all kinds of wonderful positions. They were working in real estate agencies. They were working in public relations. And I mean, these were very meaningful placement opportunities that our young people had, and it was a very successful program. Many were college students. They had no monies to go back to school for their tuition or books, so they used their paychecks to take care of their tuition and educational needs. And some parents had gotten laid off or were unemployed. And so many of the young people were saying, well, we paid the light bill or the gas bill for our mother. We paid for food or our rent, so quite a number of different kind of stories, very sad, but at least they had a safety net, and that was that summer job.
And speaking of hearings, I know another issue where you've organized hearings is around the trauma centers and closing the Southside Trauma Center desert issue and expanding access to care. Right. Tell our viewers a little bit about that issue.
Right. So I've been working with a group of young people who live in the Woodlawn community, and they visited my office about 6 or 7 years ago, complaining that Chicago, well, the South Side was a trauma desert. There was no level 1 trauma hospital on the South Side, and too many young people, because of the violence and some other issues, people were dying. They were literally dying because the ambulance would bypass the nearest hospital, and they would travel all the way across town, and to try to save this person's life. And this young person, her brother was shot, and it was not a life-threatening illness, but they lived in Woodlawn, and the ambulance bypassed the University of Chicago and took this person all the way to Northwestern Hospital, and the young man died. And as a result, the young people organized. They got together with emergency room physicians over at the university, and they just organized, and they said, we demand to have a trauma hospital on the South Side. So I held hearings last year, and I pulled together all the health heads of the city, county, state together, and the hospital association, and we've been working towards this issue, trying to find some dollars to make this thing happen.
This is Political Forum, a live interactive call-in program. Our special guest tonight is Senator Mattie Hunter from the 3rd District. Yeah. We invite your questions and your comments for Senator Hunter. Please join the conversation at 312-738-1060, 312-738-1060. I think we have a caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I have a question concerning the minimum wage. I know that voters in November will be looking at possibly raising minimum wage from $8.25 to $10 statewide. My question to you is, what's your take on it? Do you think that's enough? Because I know, as you know, in the city, they're looking to raise the minimum wage anywhere from $10 to $13, $15.
Right. Yeah, I agree that it is not enough dollars. You have families and individuals who are struggling out here. The cost of living is constantly going up, and the current minimum wage is really not addressing the needs of the working poor, and I would hope that we can increase it to the $10 or $15 an hour, but I know, knowing how things work in Springfield, I know that it is not going to go up that far, but I do believe that when we return to Springfield during our veto session in November, I believe that we are going to pass some sort of, I'm hoping that we will pass some sort of minimum wage bill. But no, it's not enough, sir, to answer your question.
And the caller pointed out the November elections, and we're just a few weeks away from a major election.
That's right.
In this state, and hoping you could say a few words about what's at stake this election season. Why should people pay attention? And I think to the caller's point about minimum wage, I think there's a referendum or
there's a referendum on the ballot to gather the voters' opinion as to how they feel about it. Matter of fact, we have several, maybe a total of 7 referendums, if I'm not mistaken, on the ballot, just to hear from our voters to see how they feel about the issues that we're faced with down in Springfield. But we do have a statewide election coming up in about 5 weeks, maybe. And so what is at stake is the governor's seat, the treasurer, the comptroller, the attorney general's, and the secretary of state's position, as well as you have congressional races, you have General Assembly races, the state reps, state senators. I'm up for re-election myself. And so it's really important, people who are in the listening audience, in the viewing audience as well, to register to vote. First of all, if you are not registered to vote, if you moved somewhere, all you need to do is fill out an application to change your address. If you stayed in the same building, just change the apartment number, okay? But get out there and register, and we do expect for you to vote. Get out there and vote, because so many people have risked their lives, and they've been so committed to making sure that you have a voice. I know that there was a faction of the people who wanted term limits. Well, you know what? I am totally against term limits, and the reason why I am totally against term limits is because you have something called elections, and they're in place for people to get out there and vote. I sit on a number of legislative committees around the country where nothing but legislators sit on various committees. Most of them are focusing on health. And as I listen to my colleagues who are black, they're white, they're Asian, they're Hispanic, they're Republican, they're Democrat, they're constantly pleading with me, as well as my other colleagues in Illinois, do not, repeat, do not let people talk you into having term limits. They said that's the worst thing that you can ever do. We've done that before in our state, and it's horrible. The term limits are 4 or 6 years. And they said that simply is not enough time to learn how the budget operates, how the rules of the state or your respective constitution. There's so much to learn, and next thing you know, by the time you learn half of it, your time is up, and it's time for someone else to come in there. And so really all it does is empower people you did not elect into office, and they are staff, and they are the lobbyists, you know. So those are the people who are running the states, you know, for the states that have term limits. So you don't want that. So just get out and vote. That's all you need.
So you've just heard Senator Hunter's views on the importance of civic knowledge, awareness, participation, and engagement. We're a few weeks away from the election. You also heard the senator's views on term limits, which is something that's been in the news this election cycle.
Sure.
What's going on in your neighborhood? What do you think about what the senator's comments? Join us. We invite your questions and your comments. You can call in at 312-738-1060, 312-738-1060. I think we have another caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yes. What I wanted to mention was the fact that as long as you're legally entitled to vote, you can call in and request an application for an absentee ballot. You don't need an excuse for that. You don't need to be handicapped or out of town or anything. You just need to request it.
Good point, ma'am. Thank you very much. And you can also go online and you can vote. You can register to vote online, and you can actually vote online as well. And then also, if you are going to become 17, if you are 17 years old right now, and if you will turn 18 by the time it's election day, you can register to vote now. So that when election day rolls around, you're already qualified to vote. So there are all kinds of opportunities that we've voted into place for people to make it much more easier and much more convenient for you. You can even vote early. I believe that in about 2 weeks,
October 20th.
October 20th. Thank you very much, Rod. You can start voting early. And when you vote early in Chicago, all you have to do, you can vote anywhere. There's at least one polling place in every single 50 wards. And you can, during the early voting process in the time period, you can just go and vote at either one of those locations. So vote early, because you never know what's going to happen on election day, you know.
Great. I think we have another caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you for taking my question. I'm calling because I've been reading about sentencing reforms for low-level drug offenses.
Yes.
And I was just curious, how is that going? Because it just does seem unfair to give people felonies for having under 1 gram of possession of a substance.
Well, if you've noticed, that's a very good question, sir. Thank you. As you've noticed, many elected officials and politicians around the country are beginning to address that issue. They know that arrest has been made for low-level, for marijuana, which are low-level offenses. Some of them were arrested for having only less than 1 gram of marijuana, 1 cigarette on them. And they go to jail, and these people have no monies to make bail. and they're filling the beds up. You know, they're overcrowding the jails where the serious offender who are committing felony crimes and other serious misdemeanors, they're running the streets. They are running the streets. And so you've had all kinds of criminal justice reforms to take these people in. And if they have a drug problem or an alcohol problem, put them into a treatment program. That's what we have those for. And free those bed spaces up for the most serious offenders. So that's a very good point, sir. Thank you.
And I think just this week, Mayor Emanuel called on the General Assembly to decriminalize marijuana possession in the state.
Yeah, I don't know where that's going to go. Maybe it'll go somewhere, I don't know. But I happen to be an alcohol and drug. I am a certified alcohol and drug counselor by profession, and I am also have a master's degree in alcohol and drugs. And you know, I have some very strong opinions about alcohol and drugs in general. I know that disproportionately African Americans and other minorities has been discriminated against as relates to drug arrests and drug incarcerations, and I've been one of the major persons in the state who has been fighting against it, trying to reverse those trends.
This is Political Forum, a live interactive call-in program. Our special guest tonight is State Senator Mattie Hunter. We invite your questions and your comments for the Senator. Please join the discussion, 312-738-1060. I think we have another caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. There are some concerns that there is no trauma center on the South Side. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to know, what can we do to either partner with the University of Chicago or get some other center to come to the South Side so that people can get the services that they need and do not have to travel all the way downtown to Northwestern.
Right. Yes, I don't know if you missed, you may have missed our earlier conversation regarding trauma centers, but I am chairing an administrative committee where I have at the table the Illinois Hospital Association. We even had a hearing about this latter part of last year. We have the director of the Illinois Department of Public Health, the director of the City Department of Health and County Department of Health. And we've been meeting. We're trying to get a survey out because before anyone funds anything, they're always looking for data. We know that there's a need, but we need data. And also, we're trying to identify where we can find some dollars to put a trauma center on the South Side of Chicago. It's taken a while. Major projects such as this take a very long time, but what we need is a level 1 trauma center. You see there's a level 1 and there's a level 2 trauma center. So if you have a level 1 trauma center, which is what we need, then that's going to cost at least anywhere from $29 to $34 million a year just to operate, you know. So we need more than a 1 year worth of funding. We need a constant revenue stream. And so that's what we're working on. We're trying to do our best within a timely manner. So maybe you'll see some movement on it next year.
I think we have another caller on the line. Caller, are you there? Caller?
Good evening, ma'am. I know it's not a matter if. I want to know how soon will it going to be mandated where all police departments in the state of Illinois, where police officers going to have body cameras on them.
Yeah. I have no idea. Seems as though it's a pretty popular issue. And I think that the next step is, you know, the question is always, sir, how do you pay for it? And so I'm sure that municipalities are taking a look at that. I don't know if the federal government will come in and give a grant to different municipalities and cities and townships.
Man, whatever. The lawsuit, not having all those lawsuits would pay for itself. That's all I'm going to take care of.
How would a lawsuit pay for something like that?
No, I said not having all those lawsuits.
Yeah.
It would help pretty much almost pay for itself.
Yeah, you're right. But it's needed. You're right. We need it. We know that cameras, you know, they monitor things and they see everything that the average person does not see. And so we do need some cameras, and I believe that police departments are working on it.
And it's definitely something that's been in the headlines. So thank you for your question,
Absolutely.
caller.
Great call.
I think we have another caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm calling, responding to the young lady that just called. I know the history. I'm a retired nurse from Michael Reese Hospital. I worked in Mercy, Cook County, and Northwestern.
You got some
We've
good training.
had trauma units in the hospitals. It's the gangbangers over the years that shut the hospitals down, trauma units, because there were no bills were being paid. They didn't pay the bills. Medicaid, Springfield Public Aid were paying bills, but they were slow paying them, and that was one of the reasons why the things that's going on the South Side in the hospitals that went on, and the hospitals closing, nobody was getting paid. So when Christ decided to open theirs up, everyone said, you know, well, these kids are not going to make it. They're not going to make it in the ambulance.
Right. And they're not making it in the ambulances, especially if they're shot anywhere on the South Side. And God forbid if it's rush hour or the traffic is bad, by the time you arrive at Christ Hospital or Northwestern Hospital or Cook County Hospital, they're dead. They're dead on arrival. And these are instances where you could have saved someone's life had we had a trauma center on the South Side.
And I know we've received a number of calls on this issue, but explain to our viewers the difference between a level 1 trauma center
so
and
a level 1 trauma center has all of the experts of specialties in there. You have a heart specialist, a dental specialist, level 1 trauma centers are dealing with accidents, shootings and mostly though accidents, where you need to really get to a hospital that has all of the professions that are there. I mean, we have level 2 trauma centers, but they do not have all of the specialties that are needed as it relates to a trauma center. A trauma center, you have a heart attack, any kind of critical, I want to say accidents, or maybe I'm using the wrong term, but a level 1 trauma center costs anywhere from $29 to $34 million, and then a level 2 trauma center can cost much less, like like 15 to $17 million, and that's only because level 2 trauma center do not have all of the specialties that a level 2 will call for.
We're almost out of time today. We've had a number of thought-provoking questions and comments for Senator Hunter. One of the things that we talked about is civic engagement and people leaning in and paying attention and being active. And unfortunately, I think in our last primary election, we only had 16% turnout. It was civic disengagement. And I think one of the reasons why is because the level of friction between Republicans and Democrats. And I think even on this issue of the trauma centers, you have to work across the aisle, don't you? And can you talk a little bit about some examples of where you're building bipartisan support and finding solutions?
Well, I try to build bipartisan support on most of the controversial issues that I'm constantly sponsoring. And the reason why is because I know that Republicans have the same kind of issues in their districts that I have in my district. However, they, for whatever reason, may not be interested in sponsoring those kinds of legislation, such as funding youth programs and after-school programs, or violence prevention programs, or youth employment programs for that matter. And so I always go across the aisle and I'll find 2 or 3 to 5 votes, and I even ask some of them, would you like to sponsor this bill with me? I would really appreciate it, And sometimes I do my homework and say, well, you have this and that going on in your community, and it's the same thing that's going on in my community. If we can partner together to make this thing happen, then let's do it.
Great. We'd like to thank our guest tonight, State Senator Mattie Hunter. Thanks for joining us. In order for our democracy to thrive, we need an informed and engaged citizenry. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for calling in. And we invite you to join us next week, Wednesday at 7 o'clock, for the next edition of Political Forum. Good night.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good night.